Welcome, everybody. John Arvosis here, Washington, D.C. Hello. Please let us know where you're from. Our usual hellos and welcomes. We usually take, let me go live on TikTok here. We take about 4 or 5 minutes just to let people filter in. So we do our soft launch on the hour here. And as I said, around 5 or 6 after the hour is when we'll officially begin with the news. But we hang first and say hi and see where folks are from, which is always kind of fun to see. Amanda, you're first. Lovely. Woo. All right. Hey, everybody on TikTok. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And everybody on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Woo. Hey, Syndicate, you're back. We missed you yesterday. Though I told everybody you had mommy visiting. So, YouTube, did I not mention YouTube? Most of you are on YouTube. Did I forget to mention you guys? Hi, Norway. Cue the Russians. Bonsoir, Audrey-Anne. Comment ça va? Oh, boy, everybody. Today was busy. Doctor's appointment. That was fun. Hopefully nothing bad, but always a joy. Exactly, guys. If you haven't joined us before, we take the first couple minutes just for folks to introduce themselves, say where you're from, and kind of fun to see where everybody is from. And it gives us the added advantage for folks, especially on YouTube and Facebook, YouTube and TikTok, to give you guys a chance to sort of saunter in. You tend to take about 4 or 5 minutes to saunter. So, excuse me, my allergies are back again since the weather is, well, it's not nice out, but it's like upper 60s. So my allergies are coming back. Anyway, so hello, Wales. And my first heart of the day. Thank you. The borderline. Thank you. Always appreciated. Oh, gosh. I've got like way too much stuff to talk about today, so we'll see. I may have to cut some of it. I grabbed a bunch of different stories, but it's, we'll see. There's a lot of news. Again, we'll do mostly Ukraine as always. I will start with the Texas school shooting because it's such a huge story. So, and there's some new news that's really obnoxious about it that I think is worth bringing up. And then, yeah, like a good deal of Ukraine news too. So, boy. But yes, what's going on with everybody else here? Upper 60s. Upper 60s is nice. No, it's nice out. We've had 90s and cold, and now it's back to like decent weather again. So, ooh-la. We're waiting another 2 or 3 minutes, folks, just so you know. Like I said, we do our soft launch here just to give folks a chance to filter in. It's kind of a mix of stuff, PB&J. I'd say some good news, some nothing terrible. Thank you, NATO bot. You know I like my Borg. You know I like my Borg. Was that NATO bot or Flower Lady? No, I'm. You know what? I'm going to scroll. There we go. I can see better from here. See, my allergies are totally. I have a runny nose. Oh, NATO bot sent the ice cream cone. Flower Lady, Love Focus. I'm not even sure what Love Focus is. Harvey's over on LinkedIn just to be different today. I know. Well, you know, the funny thing, Harvey, is people say on LinkedIn, I just so folks know, I stream on TikTok via my iPad there, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and Twitter as well via my laptop, which is over there. And it's funny because most people are on YouTube, but some are on the other platforms, and I always get a kick out of how, Sasha's awakening. Oh, thank you, Firefly. The Galaxy is one of my favorite ones. I'll show you the back of my telephone. I'm a star child, so to speak. Thank you. But in any case, yeah. But Harvey, the funny part is some people really liked it at LinkedIn and Facebook because they like having it not be chatty, and they find it very chatty at YouTube, which is funny because I like the chattiness. Actually, I will say, I think the trolls and everything have gotten, we've got a smaller audience on TikTok, but it's meant the commenting is much nicer. I can actually read your comments finally. I know. Well, Rocky and Bullwink are the good guys. It's Boris and Natasha who are going to get me. Yes, I'm convinced Harvey's, and now Harvey's back on YouTube. All right, guys, we'll do another minute or so, minute and a half, and then I'll jump in. So, wow. So what else? The trick to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, that's easy. You go, hey, Google, and then it converts it for you. Or, hey, Siri. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. All right, guys. Like I said, another half minute and we're there. Well, I can start to explain Moose on Squirrel. So what we're going to do, the viewers are down. TikTok played a little game on us last Monday. We went from 2,000 to 3,000 at the beginning of every one of these to 700 within one day, which is a little suspicious, isn't it? Oh, well, what do you do? You know, we just keep churning things out. Thank you, Samantha. And still got 450,000 followers, which is nice. It's just a little annoying. I know the notifications. I know. They're not notifying people. TikTok is being evil, but, you know, what do you do? Sometimes I think we're all in North Korea, David. All right, guys, I'm going to start. The way we do this is, and thank you for that, I will do a news summary for maybe 20 minutes. It might go longer. It may go less. We'll find out. And then after my news summary, we will open it for questions and answers. Well, questions. I'll give answers, but I also don't mind you guys chiming in too. I kind of enjoy when the audience starts to chime in with what they think is going on, partially because you guys are really smart and sometimes you know more than I do about a specific issue. And I don't mind that. If we're talking about something in specific, especially military hardware, things like that, it can be very helpful for the former military folks to jump in. So, but that takes us, the Q&A takes us till about a quarter after the next hour. So we always have ample time to do the Q&A. Your questions on TikTok, enter them at the bottom of the screen in the box that says Q&A. That way they line up nicely and I can see them very easily. And on YouTube, use the comment box at the bottom. Same thing for LinkedIn and Facebook and everything else. And I always promise on TikTok, I appreciate all the little gifts. Like, there you go. My favorite little Ukrainian flower girl in spring look there. And I will always try to do a shout out when you guys give me the gifts on TikTok. And as my thank you on YouTube, when you do the super chat questions, I will queue those up to be the next question I answer. And even if I'm doing this part here, if you do a super chat question, I will stop at the next break and we'll answer your question. So it's a nice way of thanking you guys and of you guys helping support my work so I can keep doing this. So I'm not going to do the news recap today because honestly, there's so much news. I'd rather maybe just go through the stories because I may pick and choose some of them that we're not going to. Well, okay, I'll give you sort of the overall. I'm going to start with the school shooting in Texas because there's a lot of news about that. Tell you kind of where things are in Eastern Ukraine, although things haven't changed very much there. Mariupol, there's a few more details out now about how that whole thing went down in Mariupol with how the Ukrainian government was supporting the troops there that I thought was kind of interesting. There's a debate going on as to whether NATO is or isn't throttling Ukraine, so to speak. Is NATO the TikTok of Ukraine? Are they intentionally not giving them everything they should be giving them? There's a lot of new evidence about how the sanctions are working against Russia. That's good news. Nike, some good news out of Nike. Turkey is negotiating with Russia. Thank you, Hannah, for that. I was like bowing my head when that had. There's this little hat with a mustache they put on TikTok, and it's always kind of cool when I bow my head with that on. Turkey's negotiating with Russia over the grain. Turkey's negotiating with Sweden and Finland. I'll tell you how that's going. There's some updates there. 2 Russian soldiers pleaded guilty of war crimes. 2 additional Russian soldiers. I've got something on an obnoxious Russian soldier who got his comeuppance. That story I'm not skipping because it's a good one. Police in Moscow behaving badly. Russian looters, but kind of a funny thing about Russian looters. Well, not really funny, but weird. All right, let me dive right in. So there are a lot of news about the gunman outside the school. The most annoying thing is that I'm going to read you the timeline. Thank you, baby, for that. Let me read you the timeline of what happened. That may be the best thing to sort of give you. I don't want to spend half the show on this, but I did say early on when we were doing the Ukraine news that as other stories came up, as time went on, I was going to start injecting some other news into the show because eventually, let's face it, eventually we hope Ukraine wins and there is no more Ukraine news. But let me just give you the timeline of how things went down with this, okay? So that morning, this guy Ramos, the shooter, shoots his grandmother Tuesday morning, and he uses her truck to drive to the local elementary school. And this is a school with kids, like I said, age 4 to 10, 4 or 4 to 11 or so. Drives to the school, crashes the truck into a ditch at 11:28 a.m. Okay? He starts shooting at people at a funeral home across the street. So he's right like in front of the school. There's a funeral home across the street. He shoots at people there at 11:28 a.m. And the people then call the police at 11:30 a.m. and they say, there's a shooter outside the school. Now, the police don't need to hear anything else, right? There is a shooter outside the school at 11:30 a.m. That is all you need to know for these police to respond, right? Not so much. 10 minutes passes. He has now climbed a fence onto the school grounds. 1 minute passes. It's at 11:30. He climbs the fence onto the school grounds and starts shooting into the school at people at 11:30. 10 minutes later, he walks into the school unimpeded, right? So 11:30, the police are called. There's a gunman outside the school. 10 minutes later, after just shooting at the school for 10 minutes, he walks right into the school unimpeded. Nobody's stopping him. The whole thing about him being shot at by other cops, untrue. The whole thing about him having body armor, untrue. So it's not like this guy was Rambo or something. He goes into the school at 11:40. 4 minutes later, at 11:44 a.m., 14 minutes after the police are called, they finally show up. This guy's been in the school for 4 minutes shooting people inside the school, and the cops finally show up. Mind you, again, 14 minutes later, after the police are called to a school shooting, they finally show up. Now it's 11:44 a.m., okay? 11:44 a.m., the police exchange some gunfire with Ramos, who's locked himself in the schoolroom and is killing all the children, okay? What time do you think the police went into the school and shot him? It is 11:44 a.m. when the police arrive, okay? They go into the school and shoot him at 12:40 p.m., 56 minutes later. Sorry, my voice is going up. I'm so pissed off about this. The police so screwed up this entire thing, so screwed it up. And yes, the latest reports, because I saw somebody ask about the body armor, the latest reports are that he was wearing like whatever outer gear the body armor would be in, but it actually had no plates in there. There was none of the protection he would have had from the body armor was in it. These police, the way and there's video out. I didn't want to post it because it came from a local news channel and I felt kind of bad reposting their stuff. And it was a 4-minute video, but showing the parents on the scene begging these police to go in. The parents are on the scene. They know the children are getting shot at inside and they're saying, you've got to go in there. And the police now are forming like a line, holding their tasers in their hands, pointing them at the parents. And I'm pretty sure from one video, they already had one parent on the ground. I mean, it was sick what these people do. And for the governor of that state to give a press conference yesterday and say, first of all, he said, we were lucky. Things could have been a lot worse. And everybody went, could have been a lot worse. Now we actually know that things should have been a lot worse. It is unimaginable to me that this kid didn't go into other classrooms and kill more people because he had an hour that they just left him in there walking around killing people. Anyway, I am so pissed off about this. I just saw that timeline is in a Wall Street Journal story that just came out before I came on with you guys. But unbelievable. Anyway, because there's a lot of Ukraine news as well, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but actually, I'll tell you one more quick story, which is very sad. One, there were 19 students who were killed and 2 of the teachers were killed. One of the teachers' name was Irma Garcia. Her husband, Joe, just died of a heart attack 2 days after she was killed. And the family obviously says it was because of her death. Just a horrible, they were high school sweethearts, married 24 years. Just awful. All right. I know that's a really creepy place to start this, but it was, I wanted to get out of the way. And at the same time, what a just mess of a story that is. All right, I'm going to put on my fan so my apartment doesn't get too warm. I'm like all worked up from that story. I just can't even on that thing. All right, here we go. All right, let's jump to Ukraine. A lot of news. So the Russians are trying to take eastern Ukraine. That is the big goal right now. They've given up on Kiev. They've given up on Kharkiv. There is still, mind you, there's still some movement going on of troops where we're not entirely sure that the Russians might not try for Kharkiv again, right? Kharkiv is that second largest city in the northeast. It's possible they might try to come down again. Oh, the hand hearts, thank you. It's also possible they might come at Kyiv again. I mean, you got to keep these in mind, but they don't have a lot of troops. They don't have a lot of equipment, so it's very unlikely. What they are doing is they're making a big push for eastern Ukraine, and they're making a big push for like the easternmost part of eastern Ukraine. That's the town of Severodonetsk that you will keep hearing about. You'll hear about a couple other towns. I don't know if I do have it here. Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Liman. You'll hear about all these towns. They're all in the same area there, and the Russians are trying to get in there, it's sort of the northern area of this eastern Ukraine. If you look at a map, I know one of these days I'm going to get a map so I can show you guys, but it's this sort of area. They're all in the same area. Now, it is not clear. The Russians claim today that they just captured Liman. There are conflicting reports about that. We don't know. It's a small town, but it's a strategic town. They were trying to capture Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, not doing so well with that. Two of the other towns. My main point here is to tell you is there's a number of strategic towns. One, they may have captured. Two, not doing well. The third, or the fourth, Severodonetsk, the Russians are attacking like from almost all sides, but they're not breaking through. So again, it's not clear. The concern is that this is going to be another Mariupol, that the Russians are going to come through and they are going to just, barrage this city again and again and again, kill everybody in it, destroy every building in it in order to take it over because they want it for its location. They don't care about who's there. Frankly, there's Ukrainians in the town. They'd rather they all be gone anyway. That's kind of what's up with that. It's not a stalemate, but we're still seeing what's going to happen. What is important, there was actually a wonderful explainer in the New York Times. They've been doing this sort of visualization of the war. And it was interesting to see, they showed just sort of like how the goals changed from going after all these areas to now going after this very small area of maybe 75 miles in eastern Ukraine that they're fighting over. In any case, it was interesting. The Russians are shelling Kharkiv again. That started up. Kharkiv had a respite for a while. They were bombed just to hell for the first 2 months of the war. Kharkiv, again, the second largest city in the northeast of Ukraine. Second largest city of Ukraine. It is in the northeast. And they finally had pushed the Ukrainian artillery far enough back to Russia that they were able to stop it altogether. There is some artillery and other shelling going on of Kharkiv. It's not clear yet from the reports from where it's not as bad as it was, but it means, again, the Russians are regrouping. Mariupol, this I thought was interesting because it was some details of how the Ukrainians were resupplying the troops in Mariupol, right, who were at the steel plant, the Azovstal steel plant. Let me just read you a quick paragraph. I just, again, thought it was interesting. These names. Kirilo Budanov, chief of the Defense Ministry's Intelligence Directorate, Ukraine, told The Drive media outlet, that there have been 7 missions during which Mi-8 helicopters have been providing Ukrainian soldiers defending the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol with arms, ammunition, medicine, food, and 72 additional fighters from the Azov regiment. So they even had resupplied them with fighters, which is very interesting. Those deliveries were successful. However, 2 helicopters were shot down during the 5th and 7th missions, and the one coming to the rescue was also destroyed. And then what happened was then the Russians just started bombing the heck out of the place, and it was so bad, the bombing, that they weren't able to get any more missions in there. Again, just thought it was interesting. I have no idea they were resupplying them at all, let alone with troops. There's a weird story in the German press that is sort of being denied by some, but it was a story claiming that NATO had a secret agreement not to give Ukraine planes, which frankly we already know they're not giving them planes, and tanks, because NATO was afraid of escalation. They were afraid of making Putin mad. Now, Some have pointed out that what's weird about this story is it doesn't totally make sense. I mean, I did a piece on it, but it doesn't totally make sense completely because, first of all, sorry, as I turn off the light on my phone that likes to turn itself on its own, that first of all, Eastern Europe wouldn't have agreed to this. Poland wouldn't have agreed. The Baltic states wouldn't have agreed. You know, the Baltics would be the first people to say, give Ukraine all the stuff it wants, right? I mean, there'd be no reason for that. So I don't know where this story stands. I will say this. I think what is true is certain NATO members, the French and the Italians, clearly want Ukraine to just stop and give up some land. Clearly. The Brits are like, Maggie Thatcher with bad hair is Boris Johnson, vis-a-vis Ukraine, right? Couldn't be stronger. The Germans just, I think, go back day to day. And I'm not going to knock the Germans, but I'm going to say my political brain is telling me there is a waffling going on. It's not even a waffling, a seesaw. Good German, bad German, good German, bad German that I'm seeing that makes me think there's some kind of thank you, Kreiters. There's some kind of political fight going on with Germany that I don't know about, but that is still going on internally, and it's changing German policy like this. And the Germans, I think, still have a bit of that fear that the French have, not even fear, a little bit of a bias towards can't we just get along with Russia, right? So, and then the U.S., frankly, the U.S. is in the same ballpark. The U.S. has been very good, but at the same time, I still think there is an issue with Biden where there is a concern about, again, us going too far, us pissing off Putin, not giving Putin an out, World War I all over again, this kind of stuff. So even if NATO doesn't have an informal agreement, it's pretty clear that NATO has decided not to give Ukraine planes. We know that. And the tank thing, Poland gave the tanks, right? So at least on that front, that should have been done. Any case, just wanted to mention it. I think it's interesting because it's caused a bit of a brouhaha. On the sanctions front, more evidence that sanctions are working. Thank you, Kreiters, for that on TikTok. I'll give you just little bits of this, but this is from the New York Times. The war's economic toll in Russia is becoming unmistakable. Prices of consumer goods are soaring. Basic items from paper to buttons are in short supply. Sales in the lucrative energy sector are projected to fall this year as European customers begin to pivot away from Russian oil. The banks, this was interesting. Banks in Russia have shortened the paper receipts they give people. So I guess they would give them a paper receipt after their bank transaction, probably the ATMs, the money machines, and things like that. Well, they've shortened the length of them to save paper because there's a paper shortage now. Clothing manufacturers say that they are running out of buttons. I'm not quite sure why, but again, with all of this machinery, it's quite possible they need foreign parts to repair the machinery or something like that, and they're not getting it anymore. Several of the local smaller airlines, Ural Airlines, says that it only has 25 of its 41 planes now operating. Anyway, there's some other stuff too, but bottom line is it looks like the sanctions are at least starting to take some kind of a dent or a greater dent, which is good. Nike, here's another one in terms of the sanctions. Nike announced today that it is out of Russia for good. Nike joins Starbucks. Oh, and that's right. I got to jump. Oh, you're being funny. Sorry. Dragana's being funny. I do need maps. I know. I will get maps for Dragana. I promise. I just sort of have to get to it. But Nike announced today that in addition to having frozen their work there, like every company, they are now leaving Russia altogether, along with McDonald's, along with Starbucks, along with Marks and Spencer. So that's good news. It's also bad news for Russia because we are now seeing this story growing. This is the fourth company in the last week that has announced it's not coming back. And that's going to have long-term implications for Russia economically. And frankly, it's going to be interesting, I think, for other companies because it's starting to send a message to other companies that, hey, not just get on the bandwagon, but this climate, if I were a big company, I'd be saying, guys, all these other guys seem to know something we don't. Go run the numbers again, do the political risk analysis again as to whether we should even be thinking of coming back to Russia. But I think this is very significant. It may not be a wave yet, but it's just about to become a wave, which is interesting. And Subway, I did not see. Has Subway pulled as in they're gone for good? That's great if that's true. I did not see that. Turkey negotiating with Russia over grain. This was kind of an odd story today. Reuters says that an undisclosed senior Turkish official told Reuters that the negotiations were ongoing to export grain from Ukraine. Russia blocks over 20 million tons in the Black Sea, and Turkey is negotiating with Moscow for Kyiv to open a corridor for grain sales via Turkey. Let's see what happens. I don't see why Russia should do this. I mean, there's no reason Russia should do this. I mean, they're not humanitarians. Literally, Russia is holding up the grain because they want to starve the world, and they want to starve Ukraine of money as well. So they don't want Ukraine to sell this stuff. Russia would only do this if Turkey did something in response, such as no more Byroktar drone sales or something else. So this worries me. This worries me as to what Russia's going to want for this. Turkey and Sweden and Finland, the discussions apparently went well today. That was news, and kind of good news considering I don't think anybody expected to hear that anytime soon. The Turkish president's spokesperson said that Turkey has, quote, seen a positive attitude towards lifting of the embargo regarding defense industry products. That's Turkey's roundabout way of saying they have seen some positive response from the Finns and the Swedes about lifting an arms embargo that was put on Turkey as a result of its offensive against the Kurdish YPG militia in Syria. So let's see what happens, but that's good news. Turkey is blocking, or says they're going to block NATO membership for those two countries. That's why we're talking about this. 2 Russian soldiers pleaded guilty to firing on a town in, thank you, Miss Mickey. 2 Russian soldiers pleaded guilty for firing on a town in eastern Ukraine's Kharkiv region from a position across the border in Russia. The soldiers, Alexander Babakin and Alexander Ivanov, issued their guilty plea in the second war crimes trial to take place in Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion began in February. The trial is taking place in central Ukraine. The verdict is due on Tuesday. Again, interesting. I'm intrigued that they're getting these guilty verdicts. I don't know. I'm intrigued because I wonder where are they getting info from? You know what I mean? I mean, unless these guys are just cracking and confessing, but I just think that's interesting. This is kind of a good story, I'll say, because it has a good ending. So some Russian soldier goes into a Ukrainian home to loot, and he loots and steals a bunch of stuff. And then he goes, and I guess he must have found a Polaroid camera they had there. You know, the Polaroids that you take the picture and it develops on the spot. He takes a picture of his face, a selfie, and leaves it there to brag that he robbed them. So the family, I don't know whether the family called the government, talked to the local media, but all I know is I'm going to find the picture here. The head of digital services for Ukraine, that young guy, I say young, he may be 38 years old. We said it's Dimitro, I'm forgetting his last name, but Dimitro. And he does a search. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you. So this is the Polaroid the jerk left on the table for both of you to see. And Dimitro gets involved, who's the tech whiz. And using facial recognition software, he found the jerk. And they got the guy's name. They've got his social media accounts. His name. Oh, did I write his name on here? Yes, Nikita Tretiakov. The interesting thing is, obviously, this guy's going to be harassed online forever. But I Googled it just to make sure. Looting is a war crime. So he committed a war crime, and they now know his name. This guy better really hope that he never gets caught by the Ukrainians. Because if he gets caught by the Ukrainians, now, mind you, all these guys will probably be traded. I don't know. I wonder about the war criminals. I wonder about that because I'm not sure how you trade troops. For example, the one guy who confessed, who was given life in prison, he literally drove by an old man, a 62-year-old guy on his bicycle, And out the window, his friend said, hey, kill him. And he said, okay. And he shot the guy in the head and killed him. I'm not sure that's the kind of guy that you just trade for another soldier like that. You know, I would think it would be worth something more, you know, but let's see what happens. Maybe these guys figure, thank you, Louis. Maybe these guys figure, you know, I'm going to be traded anyway. It doesn't matter. I might as well just say yes. The trial will be over. I'm in prison. I'm in a prison camp anyway, a prisoner of war camp. What's the difference? I don't know. Police, this is kind of a funny one. Police in Moscow arrested a man for wearing blue and yellow while he was jogging because, as you know, blue and yellow are the colors of the Ukrainian flag, and they thought he was making a political statement in favor of Ukraine, so they arrested him while he was jogging in Moscow. The man was able to get out his phone and show, first of all, using his GPS or whatever, the tracking, show how every day he goes jogging, like literally he was jogging. Thank you, Grandma, for that he was literally jogging. He wasn't making a statement. And thank God he had pictures of himself jogging in the same outfit, like, 2 months before, whatever it was. And that's how they finally let him go and found that he wasn't like some secret agent or something. But I mean, you got to love that. The final thing I put a video on TikTok. It's not, I don't know that it's really worth watching, but the Ukrainians got their hands on, you know this. Remember they got their hands on the delivery services in Belarus, like the local post offices, and they showed all the crazy stuff the looting troops were sending back home. Like they were sending, remember the lid to the trunk of a car. They were sending car batteries. Well, I got thank you, Marcy. I got a video that Media Zone had done in Russian, and I just dubbed it over in English with the video and put it on TikTok, and it's showing them in a similar post office, basically in Russia, in Belgorod, which is the town that's right across from Kharkiv in the northeast, like 10 miles away from the border. Belgorod is the town where the ammunitions depot blew up, where the oil depot blew up, where a bunch of different places have been blowing up, right? And I see you, Barry. I'll get to you in a sec. Well, they turn that off. Goodbye. The things that they stole this time, and there's a video of these idiots packing it up and sending it to their home way back in deep Russia. Sausages. Thank you, Iggy. Preserves, like, fruit preserves. Tires. Boots. A triangular Ukrainian guitar, one of those really cool triangular guitars. And that must have meant something to somebody. I saw that and I was like, you jerk. More tires. And my personal favorite, there's video of this guy opening the box for the woman because she looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, okay. It is a Russian military drone that the guy has stolen for himself, and he's shipping it back home. And the local Ruston post office was like, okay, sure. And the final sad story, Depeche Mode keyboardist Andy Fletcher has died. He was 60 or 61, depending who you talk to. Depeche Mode, one of my favorite groups, and just another sign that we're all getting old and very scary. All right, let me get, sorry, Barry. Are Russian troops going to commit crimes just so they get jailed in Ukraine and get out of the front line? The only thing is you've got to get caught. You got to get caught. So the question would be, well, here's the thing, Gary. Here's the thing. I'm not so sure about that. Thank you, Beneficium. If you, okay, I guess if you surrender, I guess their fear is like if you surrender, you might get in trouble because you surrendered, right? So you don't want to do that, meaning you get in trouble with Moscow. But you're not surrendering and confessing to a crime. You're probably getting caught. And if you're getting caught, they're still going to put you in a prison camp for the rest of the war. They're not going to send you back. I guess they could send you back. It's possible. I don't think it's what's going on, but it's possible because I guess here's the thing. If you simply surrender, hand on chin covers mic. Okay, won't put hand on chin. Thank you for that. And yeah, Ray Liotta died too. I saw that. He was like 69 or 70. He wasn't that old either. Yeah, I was going to say, if you get caught and you didn't commit a crime, you still could get traded for other troops and sent back and have to fight again. If you commit a crime like this, a war crime, then you go to jail and you may not come back for a while. Thank you, Grandma, for the flowers. You may not come back you're not coming back till the end of the war. So there is that. The only problem is if you commit a war crime, you may not be coming back at all. So it depends. But I would not be surprised, having said that the Russian troops are trying to find ways of not going back. Absolutely. That we know. 67. Hard to say how old these people are. I thought I saw him as 69. Depeche Mode guy too. There's been 60 and 61 both. So, who knows? It's a fluid age. All right, we'll do the questions. On TikTok, enter your questions at the bottom of the screen at the Q&A. Ray is 69. There you go. See? I've got a good memory. Yeah, no news about the tanks. Yes, the tanks at the bottom of the river are still at the bottom of the river. That's the news about the tanks at the bottom of the river. Francisco Franco is still seriously dead, which is an old American joke going back to the 1970s. But 67. All right, you're all going to fight. Daniel's going to fight. Daniel's laying down a fight with you guys, claiming 67, as is Mikola. Fight amongst yourselves. I'm going to pull up a TikTok question. You can all just battle it out there. Get my glasses. I had a lot written down, but that actually went pretty fast. Should we be worried about China attacking? I'm going to assume that's Taiwan. I don't think right now, and I think right now, especially with President Biden's, even though this is off topic, it's kind of on topic because it comes to the question of what has the experience with Russia and Ukraine and the allies shown China about what might happen to it if it were to invade Taiwan. Thank you, Grandma. And I think, first of all, I think the Ukraine experience, as much as we all complain, or I complain and feel like NATO should be doing more, NATO has done a lot. NATO, Ukraine is on the verge of beating Russia. Now, they still have to kick Russia out, and that could take months, even years. But Russia was a superpower that no longer is a superpower, right? And if NATO gave Ukraine the right weapons, Russia would lose, probably pretty quickly. So there's that. I think in terms of Taiwan, China is probably surprised at how well NATO hung together, how unified NATO was. I think China is surprised at how good the sanctions are, how tough the sanctions are. The banking sanctions that a lot of us thought might not happen happened early on. The fact that Europe is still working on an oil embargo, but they're working on it, is interesting. And frankly, the final thing is President Biden saying the other day that unlike Ukraine, basically he said he'd be willing to go to war over Taiwan. That has to give China pause, because that just has to give China pause. So I would say less likely of an invasion right now than there would have been. They're fireflies. Okay, I never quite understood what that jar was. Thank you, my dance. Was it my dance? Oh, Patty, that was Patty. They're fireflies. I've always wondered what that was, and I finally saw. Oh, and thanks, Cammie. I don't think I've even seen that one before. Thank you. Let me just see what else we got here, other than people arguing about. Thank you, Senor Poppy. Kira, I was going to say, if you meant to ask a question, go ahead and just ask it, because I've got a feeling that when you put that, you might have meant to ask a question. If you just meant it as a donation, thank you. But if you meant to ask a question, feel free just to write a question in there below. And if I miss it, the mods can point it out to me. So many ways. I'm not even reading. You guys are going bad over there. I think people are getting dirty over on YouTube. I'll keep things clean over here on TikTok. Chinese invasion plans were leaked. I did not see that. I'll have to see. Lithuanians raising money for a Byroktar. Oh, that's interesting. Now, are Lithuanians raising it for themselves or raising money to get to get Ukrainians more Byroktars, or whether the Lithuanians are raising one to get one themselves? When I'm on my phone, it doesn't let me do it at the same time. Well, that's too bad. That's fine. put a question. Feel free, just put a question in. No problem. I'm talking to Kira. Yes. Pull up another question here while Kira is getting her question in. Guy at press conference calling to throw Beto out. I'm not sure. This was, okay, again, we don't want to get too much back into the gun stuff, but that was Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat, when he went to the press conference. There's actually I will show you this really quick. There was an icon, this was Democratic former Congressman Beto O'Rourke showed up at the press conference the Republican governor of Texas was having yesterday about the gun shooting and yelled at the governor and got sort of escorted out by the cops, and it was quite a scene. What I want to show you is this photo from Reuters that is just it's a tremendous photo. I mean, I don't care what your politics is. It's a hell of a photo. So I'll show you guys first. So that's Beto, the former congressman there, the cops in front of him, the three guys on stage pointing for him to get out. Behind him here, where is this? Oops. That is seated is the Republican governor, and the guy standing is Ted Cruz, the Republican senator, U.S. senator, who people really hate on the left. So on multiple levels, it's quite the, I mean, look at this photo. And I was saying too, you've got to see, because the lighting, this is the Texas governor and Ted Cruz right here. And if it weren't as bad on my screen, you could, with the reflection, you could see it. But it's a hell of a photo. Really, I mean, it was an amazing, journalistically, it was just an amazing photo. But anyway, just thought I would share that since you brought up that. Oop, am I missing something? I am. Becca Engelman. Hey, Becca. Oh, and lights too. Thank you for the lights. Oh, the Byroktar is for Ukraine. Lovely. Oh, God, we love the. Thank you, Mimi, for that. Mimi Picard. I don't know if your name actually is Picard or if you're just a Star Trek fan like I am. The Byroktar is for Ukraine. That is wild. Wow. That's great. Good for Lithuania. I've actually been kind of wondering how many Byroktar Turkey has, like whether they all weren't bought out. I mean, if I were anybody else in the region, I'd be like, get those Byroktar now. Buy them while they're hot. Sell them on eBay, whatever. But, oops. Becca. For when appropriate about Texas, some of us saw raw reports. The police went and rescued their own children and left the other children. I do not know about that. I haven't heard anything about that. As always, I would say you want to make sure where you're getting it from, what the source is from. That would be my only concern there. So raw reports would worry me. I'd want to know. Well, I'm just kind of pulling up my little thing on my phone here because I'm noticing some people translating it or talking in Russian. So I like to have or actually probably Ukrainian, but I like to have my little translation app ready to go. Here we go. Where is this? Oop, did it go by again? Oh, I was just trying to scan. Oh, there we go. It's not necessary. Okay, you're just writing to something else. Okay, I was just reading, make sure we weren't having any crazy Russians. It was just people chatting. Yeah, I'd like to know what the source was for that. That would be my only concern, but I had not heard anything about it. Interesting, though. Interesting. Yeah, Shauna, the thing, Shauna, it's pretty bad. It sounds pretty bad what happened there. And the thing I was hearing too, and I don't want to, I mean, it's the whole issue, but apparently after the earlier school shootings, it became sort of well known that you don't wait, that you go in immediately. What do they say? Run for the gunfire. Run for the gunfire was sort of what the cops were told, that you do not wait. And so that's a problem. I held off until now because my initial thought was whether the cops were treating this, thank you, Grandma, whether the cops were treating this as a hostage situation and therefore you don't go running in. But now that I'm reading about and I'm remembering this whole thing, and frankly, the same mistake was made with the shooting down in Florida, that the police didn't run in when they should have run in at the sound of the bullets. So let's see, but this does not seem to be the brightest day. And I'm somebody, by the way, who actually defends cops a lot. I will say that. I am far from a leftist cop hater. Definitely that is not me. So let me pull another question from TikTok. TikTok. Okay, interesting. This is somebody saying her family or his family in Western Ukraine is saying they're concerned that Belarus may attack. Guys, don't fight. All right, don't fight over it on YouTube. I mean, look, I appreciate where she's coming from. Because some people are sort of knee-jerk anti-police, and honestly, those people drive me nuts too. But in this case, I'm not. In any case, the Western Ukraine, Belarus is causing more problems. Belarus is doing some kind of a military command in the south, or some new thing they announced today, and it's supposedly, and Harvey, I'll get to you next. It's supposedly, preparing because Poland and the Baltic, because Belarus thinks Poland and the Baltic states are preparing to invade. I think Poland and the Baltic states are looking at Belarus and they're going, "You and what army? Like, seriously?" But Belarus doesn't think this. Belarus is playing with its military because it's trying to scare Ukraine into thinking that maybe Belarus is going to invade. And Ukraine's going to have to keep troops now in the West to deal with this, and not the East or the Southeast where all the fighting's going on, so that just in case Belarus does something stupid, Ukraine's got troops there. And it costs Ukraine 2,000, 5,000 troops, who knows, that they should have had at the front. Hi, Estonia. Welcome to the talk. That they should have had at the front. That's what I think. And it's the same thing that I think is going on with Transnistria in the Southwest. Russia is just causing all sorts of trouble with Moldova because they want Ukraine to have to keep a couple thousand troops there that they wouldn't have otherwise fighting further east against Russia. That's my guess. The Americans genuinely confuse you so much. How have there not been riots in the streets over your gun and healthcare laws? I know. Well, the healthcare thing, I don't even know. Thank you, Oreos. The healthcare thing is complicated. First of all, there's a lot of things. On healthcare, most Americans don't know any better. We don't travel like people do in the rest of the world. I mentioned this before, that like 10 years ago, the number of Americans who had a passport was like 30%. Now the number might be closer to 50%. But Americans don't have the vacation time that the rest of you have. Vacation time is horrible in a job. You could start a job here. When I started my first job out of law school, in graduate school, I didn't have vacation time for the first 6 months because it was like this initial period. And then I think I had 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure I had 2 weeks. And that was it. And that 2 weeks includes, you had some time off to see your parents, but, for the holidays, our vacation time is nothing like yours. Then you add in the fact that we're so far away, other than, Mexico and Canada, and even Mexico and Canada, they're not close, For me to go to Canada, it's still a good flight. And Mexico, I don't even know if Mexico's 4 or 5 hours from here by plane. And Canada, still a couple hours to Canada, to anywhere I'd want to Toronto or Montreal. So a lot of Americans don't go abroad. They certainly don't know what the healthcare system is like abroad. And Americans tend to think that healthcare abroad is socialized and it's horrible, meaning you can't get care. We hear all the horror stories. You've got to wait 6 months, and they think it means you've got to wait 6 months if you're having a heart attack. Not you've got to wait 6 months if you have a hip replacement and you're not dying. Okay. It's not an emergency. You can get it in 6 months. Well, I had a friend here down the block who was like in her 70s and needed a hip replacement. It was still 3 to 4 months for her to get her hip replacement in America, But most Americans have not experienced healthcare abroad, so they don't realize how good it actually can be, and they really don't realize how good the prices are. Again, when I was in France and I had a retinal detachment, my God, the prices of my surgery in France was nothing. It was $2,000, and that was the full price without insurance, $2,000, and it would have been easily $25,000 or more here in the States. And the surgery was amazing, and even my eye doctor here in the States looked at it and goes, "Who did this? This is amazing." And I was like, "Oh, doctor, my doctor in Paris," But I think on the healthcare, that's part of it. We've never had anything better, so people don't understand how bad it is, how much we pay. We don't understand. Other people don't pay, and I'll leave it with this because I think there's some truth to this too, that you guys pay for your healthcare, you non-Americans, with higher taxes. And we're afraid that we're going to pay crazy taxes if we get a healthcare system like yours. Now, what I think Americans don't realize is, I don't want this all to, I'll stop after this because I don't want the whole thing to be healthcare. There are a lot of costs that you don't realize we're already paying. I'm self-employed. My health insurance costs me $1,100 a month. And that's because I got a little bit of cheaper insurance. If I kept with the good insurance, my health insurance, the best insurance, mine would have been $1,300 a month. So I'm paying $12,000 to $14,000 a year just for my insurance. Okay. So what if I didn't have to pay that, and instead I had to pay the federal government $10,000 more in taxes? Well, that would sound bad. You go, oh my God, the federal government's going to raise your taxes $10,000, John, so you can get healthcare like Canada. Yeah, but I'm not going to be paying $14,000 in premium. So anyway, it's a very complicated subject, but again, most Americans, I think, don't realize how they're actually paying already in a lot, and how their employers are paying, and it affects their salary. Anyway. Healthcare is its own topic we can do for another day. But on guns, I don't get it, Harvey. I don't get it. I don't get it. You would, as a political activist as well, because I've done a lot of political. I have a deductible. Oh yeah, I have a $1,500 deductible too, just to add to the fun. But I think, yeah, when you guys see it from your country, and I don't get it at this point. At this point, the gun issue should have been solved. You have this many kids getting shot, first of all, in Sandy Hook years ago, 5- and 6-year-olds. That should have been the end of the gun debate right there. You can't win. If you're anti-gun control, you've lost the debate when 20 or however many 5- and 6-year-olds get shot, because there's no way to respond that people will listen to you, even if you're right? But people on the left are so bad at this that the pro-gun people win. So, yeah. But why, people? I think there's a pacifism. I don't know what it is. Hi, Annette. I see you there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody else has an idea who's American here as to why it is that sort of these shootings keep happening, and Americans kind of go, oh, no, Americans think it's horrible, but they kind of go, yeah, that happens here. I've got Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's good insurance, but I pay an arm and a leg for it, the good thing, I am to move on to a topic next after this. The good thing about my insurance, thank you for the hat, is I pay so much for my insurance, but once I pay another $3,000, then everything's free. I still have to pay my premiums, but everything's free for the rest of the year. Now, that sounds good, but it means I've already paid 15 or 6, actually $15,000, I think is what it is. No, 16. Once I've paid $16,000 that year for my medical care, including premiums and my deductible and everything else, then I don't have any payments for the rest of the year, but I've already paid $16,000. And this year I already had that. I had enough medical bills that so now all my doctor visits are free for the year, but that's because I had to pay $16,000 out of pocket for the year. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And anyway, this is why I say it's hard to work on your own, because these are, at least when you work in a company, they're paying for your healthcare, so you don't realize how expensive it is, and you don't realize how much it's eating into your paycheck, in the sense that the company can't pay you more because of the healthcare. Do I think drones are controlled outside of Ukraine? What an interesting question. So Tyler Hudson asks, do you think some of Ukrainians' drones are controlled outside of Ukraine? I wouldn't be surprised, Tyler. I guess the question becomes how qualified the Ukrainians are. We do know that the Ukrainians do have a drone corps, right? And the drone corps I've seen two CNN reports on it. One was the reconnaissance drones, who are the ones that go around and they look for tanks and things, and then when they find the location by GPS, they radio it in, and they tell headquarters, and they are able to use artillery and everything else, or maybe a Byroktar, whatever, to take out the tank. The other are drone operators like Byroktar or the Switchblade drones, the kamikaze drones, where they're actually operating drones that attack. And I must admit, I wondered at the beginning of the war whether maybe we were helping or some other country that has experience with drones. Having said that, it probably makes sense for us to let the Ukrainians learn how to do this, because we want them to be able to defend themselves and be able to use the drones. So knowing how good Ukraine is at stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ukrainians were doing it all themselves. So I guess I'm going to conclude by saying I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we offered to do it, to help them long distance, or the Brits for that matter offered. But at the same time, the Ukrainians were like, no, we've got this. We got this covered. So wouldn't surprise me. Let me look here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any of your regular questions on YouTube, but as always, you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. Yeah, amazing. Syndicate's mom had cancer a few years ago. The total cost for her medicine, medical care overall were zero, right? Not just her medicine, zero. In this country, chemo alone, cancer can bankrupt you in this country even with health insurance. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Another TikTok here. Ernie, good question. And it's a good question to always keep bringing up. Ernie Millie's asking, how do you see this conflict ending? And, it's a question that keeps coming up, and it should, because I think things keep changing as we move on with this. Is it looking like it might rain on the horizon? It's going to depend in part on what the West does. It almost is weird saying the West, because to some degree we were the West because Russia had eaten the East and was holding the East hostage. The East is now the West. Eastern Europe is now the West. So I always sort of chuckle when Russia calls us the West. Thank you for the hat. For the crown, Grandma. We're not really the West. We're kind of the entire world, save Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, and China. But it's going to depend on to what degree our countries continue to defend Ukraine and give them the weapons they need. Ukraine, I think, can win this. I think Russia would be very hard pressed to use nuclear weapons. I just don't buy it. It's a chance. There's a chance. I get it. I just don't believe it. I think Russia's in trouble. I think they're grabbing the land they can right now. They're trying to grab any remaining little bits of cities they can. But I think, as the other experts have been saying, who I like, in the next few weeks, Russia will reach the point where it's kind of reached its limit on manpower, on vehicles and ammunition, everything else, where they're going to then dig in, and after they dig in, they're just going to try to prevent the Ukrainians from attacking them. And that's what the next phase of the war is, and we see how long it takes for the Ukrainians to discharge the Russians, and how long NATO continues to support the Ukrainians. But I feel like that's the next stage of the war, and in the end, I can see it ending with Russia finally pulling out to where it was before the war started, but meaning February 24th, where Russia's still holding on to Crimea, but at least they pulled out of everything else. One thing I will say was interesting. I was reading more of Zelensky's statements today, and he was talking about Crimea, and I'll get to Harvey in a sec there. He was talking about Crimea, and one thing that stood out was he was talking about the quote he made the other day that I told you guys. And I mentioned how Zelensky had said that he wanted to hold off. He was going to hold off on negotiations with Russia until Ukraine got all the land back to where they were February 24th of this year, right? Meaning they got a lot of the land to the east, a lot of the end of the south, but they still weren't holding Crimea. that Russia still had Crimea. They'd be willing to willing to negotiate. He said because of the difficulty, I read something about the difficulty of getting Crimea, the cost to them in terms of the number of lives. So it's something I had raised before about when folks asked, was he going to get Crimea, that it really depends on their calculus of how expensive it is in terms of men, in terms of women and dollars and everything else. Having said that, the final point is it's interesting because then yesterday, somebody from his office, I believe, Zelensky's, said that they predicted the Ukrainians were going to be in Crimea in December or January. So, I think we're still, honestly, like the Germans to a degree, we're still getting little bits of contradiction out of Zelensky. Not big contradictions, but I think we're getting little contradictions on the negotiating front, a little bit. Let me pull up what you guys have here. Harvey, looking at Emmanuel Macron's recent comments on Ukraine and Russia, could he see this? I noticed the time I start yawning at you guys when 7 o'clock hits. I notice this every night. I yawn and I go 7 o'clock. Sorry. Looking at Macron's recent comments on Ukraine and Russia, could he possibly have some ulterior motive for doing this? Sure. Or is he trying to be a leader of Europe? Sure. And really misreading the situation? Sure. It is certainly possible that Macron is trying to be a leader of Europe. Yes. And look, I think it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me that the French come from a perspective of thinking, like the Germans, we should work with Russia. We should maintain a relationship with Russia, this kind of thing. As far as ulterior motives, I mean, the election is gone, so you'd think he'd feel more freed up from that. He may be worried about France overall going into the future, that going in whole hog with Ukraine against Russia somehow sets up his party in a bad situation vis-a-vis Le Pen, and that basically the fascists in France will be empowered by this somehow. Maybe he thinks that. It's possible. I don't think his reasoning is nefarious. I just think it's, kind of screwed up, or I would say effed up if I weren't on this with you guys. But I think he's probably trying to be a leader. He's just not the kind of leader we want or the Ukrainians want. Richard Fisher, it's no longer for the people by the people. It's for the corporations by the lobbyists anymore. That's why. Oh, you're talking to Harvey. I will say, I think it's been for the lobbyists and by the lobbyists for a long time in America, unfortunately. You definitely have people-powered movements. I have done, and now my allergies, thank you for those. My allergies are going to go off too as I'm talking to you. I have done a lot of political campaigns. Thank you for the hat, Richard. And when I say campaigns, I don't mean election. I mean issue campaigns where I've been able to make a real difference in this country. I mean, we could talk about them another time, but I mean, going after President Obama, going after President Bush, going after major American corporations and getting their attention and making a difference, because in the end, you still had the power as a citizen of causing enough trouble that you got their attention. But it's not easy, because the people who get their attention usually are the corporations and the lobbyists, because they've got money and they're able to get the money. I would say it's not even, for some politicians, they're corrupt. For other politicians, they're just scared. Other politicians are just scared. Thank you, Miss Me, for that. Thank you. They're scared of the money. They're scared of losing, So they don't even, they're like, wipe my eyes now. They don't even have to be corrupt. They just know the bad guys have money and they're going to lose their seat, Although I would still argue that's a little bit of corruption, because there's still a little bit of this aspect of you're afraid of losing your seat. You know what? Then lose your seat. Why are you there? If you're not there to do good, and you're not willing to lose your seat by sticking to your principles, then lose your seat. Why are you there? But I agree with you, but I think it's been that way for a while, sadly. And I was meaning to get to this because I saw Raggedy Android. Oh, God, I'm so sorry, guys. Yawning at you. If people from Western countries try to immigrate to Ukraine, would they lessen their requirements on investments in order to immigrate? Probably. Probably after the war, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, Ukraine's not part of Europe. The EU's been getting kind of pissed off about that lately, because Cyprus, Portugal, and some other places, a lot of bad Cyprus, I think, especially the Russians and others came there, the oligarchs, and did it. But you could buy like land for 250,000 or 500,000, or invest in a business or something and get a passport. It would be frankly smart of Ukraine to do that, to try to find ways of luring businesses. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. Why not? And they're smart enough. Ukraine's smart enough to do it. I don't stop the yawning. Oh my God. As I always tell you guys, I always get a bad night's sleep. So I haven't slept well since COVID began. Oops. Sorry, my pen. I haven't slept well since COVID began. So, about this time, I do well in the afternoon, but by this time of night, I'm kind of like, it's good luck we're not doing this at the hour time. That would be the 1 hour later would be worth. I don't know anything that's going on with. I did my update on Finland and Sweden. They had good talks with Turkey today, and the Turks even said that the talks were good, which I thought was, good on that. We've got no updates on Vladimir Putin. Ukraine, actually, that number probably is right. Is Ukraine outnumbered 7-1 in Donbass? Zelensky was saying that they're outnumbered by a large amount in Donbass. That's what they were saying. That the Ukrainians are outnumbered by a lot by the Russians. So I read something else saying I thought it might even been 10-1 possibly. It was a large number what I was reading. So but they're still doing what they do. They're fighting back hard. So Harvey is saying, as only a Brit can say, sounds terrible to say, but I've never been a fan of the EU. They're very dogmatic in their mindset. I can see why it's good for Ukraine to join, but overall I'm a bit iffy on the whole thing. Oh, Harvey. I don't think America's about to get in the war. Not yet. I don't think anything's changed to get us into the war. It's not like some huge, horrible thing has happened where all of a sudden America's going to get in. Why would the world let Putin dictate the course of the war? Yeah, there you go. Yulia's saying 10-1. That's exactly what I read the other day, too. I read that it was 10-1 for what the Russians had. And actually, the 10-1 might even be what Zelensky's saying, I think. But that was the number that I'd seen. Yep. Which is actually kind of remarkable, because the fact that the Ukrainians are holding their own against that number of forces is pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Why would the world let Putin dictate the course of the war? Which is a fascinating question. I think it depends who you are in the world. Okay, the Brits are not letting him dictate at all. The Americans are letting him dictate some. And with the Americans, I think one huge problem is Afghanistan and Iraq. We learned our lesson. And, the voters, as much as the voters got upset at Biden for how the Iraq evacuation went, the voters wanted us out of Afghanistan. How badly the Afghanistan evacuation went. The voters wanted us out of Afghanistan. Donald Trump negotiated the agreement because his voters wanted us out, and Biden abided by the agreement because his voters wanted us out. Americans did not want to stay in Afghanistan, and they didn't want us to stay in Iraq. They were tired of both wars. So, in that case, I'm gonna copy that and write it down, Dragana. Thank you. Actually, I'm gonna save it in my computer for the tiredness. 1 second here. Keep scrolling off the screen. Stop scrolling. Hold on here. Dragana's giving me advice to help me with my sleepiness. Come on. There it is. Okay. Now it's saved. Thank you. So, with Americans, you've got this fear of getting too heavily involved, but you've also got this weird fear of beating Putin thing. And I don't know where that came from. That was not in the American mindset. It just wasn't this, oh my God, what happens if we beat Russia? I'm sure people have brought this up before, but in all my studies of the Soviet Union, I was around during the Soviet years, and since, I just don't recall ever hearing this argument to this degree of, oh my God, we can't win. Afghanistan, oh boy. We better not have the Taliban win or the Mujahideen win. That would be horrible. We wanted the Mujahideen to humiliate the Russians, And now, and the Russians had their nukes back then too. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what. I think it's a Biden thing. It is a Biden thing. I mean, this guy has been doing foreign policy for 50 years. He's an expert in it. Clearly the way he approaches it is having this fear of Putin. Also, and I've said this before about Biden likes to work out deals. And in an ironic way, that puts him a little more in the French and German camp, in the sense that France and Germany wants to work out a deal. They want to work things out with Putin. Just let's work it out and, fix this. Kind of the Italians, let's fix it. Let's have a treaty. I think Biden is more in the camp of we need to fix things. So let's get an agreement by all the parties. Maybe nobody's happy, this kind of thing. So, but I don't know. I don't get it. What really is interesting to me is, and I'll move on after this, is how the strongest, outside of the UK, the strongest voices we're hearing against Russia are the Baltic states and Poland. It's the people that are right there on the border, basically the border, more or less, with Russia. And the people that are further back, I mean, the French and the Germans at one point were very close to East Germany and Eastern Europe. So I understand how before they were like, oh my God, it's literally, in the German case, it's literally our border they're on. And in the French, it's a Germany away or half a Germany away, the bad guys. But why they today tend to be more meek, yet the Baltic states that are the ones who can get crushed are like, nah. I don't get it. It amazes me, but I don't get it. There's I'd love to talk to some of the Baltic folks about what they think it is that sort of gives them the chutzpah, the courage to be that outspoken, So Kira, I missed a question. I apologize. Not to be political. Oh, pshaw, be political. But I'm genuinely curious, do you think this war or relations would be any different if Trump were in power? It's tough to say because Trump started very pro-Putin and pro-Russia. We know that. And we know it because of his history, and we know it because of comments he made. Trump justified Putin taking Crimea. There's an I saw the interview repeatedly. Trump agreed. Trump said, they wanted to be part of, it's Russia anyway. They wanted to be part of Russia. He was fine with it. Trump, towards the end of his term, found himself having little choice but to put increasing sanctions, kicking out the Sasha, you got to wait. Kicking out the Russian diplomats and things like that. So I don't know. I would be curious. Sasha, stop. I would be curious what Trump would do now, because Trump does not have an affinity to NATO. Okay. So Trump would not be thrilled at the idea of us getting in because the war could spill over to Europe. He'd be like, so what? Let the Germans, the French, the Brits, and the Poles worry about Europe. It's not our land. He would not be thrilled about getting us into another war because, as I said, I'm itching now, because part of the reason he was elected was to get us out of a war, right? I mean, it was Trump that got us out of Afghanistan, and then it was Biden that agreed with Trump and did it. So that would have been an interesting. So I don't know. I mean, I am not a Trump fan, but I wonder. I worry that Trump would not have. Look, Trump would not be the guy that would have gotten the allies together. The allies can't stand him. Trump would not be the guy calling the allies and saying, we need a coalition. We need all of you to come together. And I know France and Germany, you're really nervous about this, but I need you to stand with me to stand up to those Russians. That ain't Trump. Those countries don't like him, and Trump doesn't want to work with Europe to stand up to the Russians, right? So now whether the Brits could have pulled it off, I don't know. Could the Brits have pulled it off and brought Trump along? Maybe. Because again, it was getting weirder for Trump, I think, as the administration went on. And now I'll leave it with this, but whether Trump also felt that he had to be more anti-Russian towards the end just to sort of burnish his good name, because there was so much Russia baggage and so many accusations of additional Russian baggage that he wanted to sort of cleanse himself by saying, as he always says, I've been tougher on Russia than anybody, and if he is, great, so who knows? She's sitting here. Oh my God, she's evil. My dog is just sitting there looking at me. Sorry. And Dragana. Oh, that's my allergy stuff. Thanks, Dragana. Magnesium for sleep and vitamin C for tiredness. Okay, I'll try both. Too many pills. Ugh, they bother my stomach. Yes, there is a chance that Trump's gets. Well, we're already a quarter after, so we can switch to the non-Ukraine part of the show, because we've been doing this. Usually we go till about quarter after anyway. I'll hang for another 10, 15 minutes anyway, so we can talk about other. I don't mind doing the occasional Ukraine question, but I like to sort of wind down by having us talk about other stuff. Do I think there's a chance Trump is reelected? Absolutely. Absolutely. Biden is not popular. That is my house sprinkler system. It wasn't my choice. I don't like it, but it's considered cool in a loft. It's not my cup of tea. Biden is not popular. I blame Biden to some degree for that. It's a very long story on that front as to why. But I think he hasn't done very well. No, not very well. What I mean is I think he hasn't done very well in terms of selling himself to the American people. So there's that. Trump has an appeal clearly with a lot of Republicans, and no matter what he did, they weren't willing to write him off. So I think he absolutely has a chance at coming back. What will happen next if he wins again? I think, I hate to get into all this stuff now because I don't want to get, like I said, I don't want to get into too much of the political stuff, but I think we're in real trouble as a country if he comes back. We're going to go down the path of Hungary if he comes back, and it's too bad. But because also we're already in the position, I've been saying this on Twitter, we're already in the position where nobody should trust us anymore. I mean, you should only trust us as far as the next president goes, and that's it. But now Trump made clear that you can change presidents and treaties can go out the window. NATO can go out the window. I'm not convinced under a Trump presidency that we would defend NATO. I'm not convinced. I fear his supporters. I mean, I'd be curious if there's any Trump supporters listening, if what you think, but I fear his supporters would be okay with it. That's what scares me. I would hope they wouldn't be okay with it. I was a Republican. I'm still very conservative on foreign policy, as you can see. I'm not a liberal on foreign policy by any means. But I think Trump is a liberal on foreign policy, and in some ways, and he's also just he's an opportunist in foreign policy. I don't even think he's liberal, but he's not conservative, that's for sure, on foreign policy. So, but I fear that Republicans would stop being Republican and they'd be Trumpers and they wouldn't care. So yeah, I worry that no promise by the U.S. matters, and it's already done. The damage is done. No one should ever take our word ever again, and that's bad. And the other lesson, this is not of the Trump years, this is the lesson of this, is any country who's got nuclear weapons, don't ever give them up. And any country who doesn't have nuclear weapons, you better get your nuclear weapons, because that's what the whole Ukraine story has taught us from the beginnings, when Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons, to the current side where Ukraine is having to push and push and push and push. And everyone's going, we want to help you, but we don't want to help you too much, Ukraine, because the other guy has nuclear weapons. Oh, you had nuclear weapons? I'm sorry you gave them up. That really scares me. That really scares me. So you got me very, very serious question there, Syndicate. So my fault for pulling it up, but it's a good one though. All right. Pat's throwing things. Kinzinger's great. I love Kinzinger, but a lot of Republicans don't. Pre-Robitaille saying Adam Kinzinger is a Republican. The irony is Adam Kinzinger is a conservative Republican, but because he's been very outspoken against Trump, a lot of the Republicans don't like him. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of the Republicans. Who knows? Who knows, right? I mean, the Trump Republicans don't like him for obvious reasons because he doesn't like Trump. But he's very conservative. But he's been very good on sort of the democracy issue, which I think is important. Let's get away from the scary stuff. Let's get away from the scary stuff. What else we got going on, guys? What else? Ooh la la. I could start my Alexa, play my music that I like. There we go.
All right. Playing your most played song.
All right. There, have my music back. What is this? Oh, this is okay. Tom Petty. I don't know why it's my most played songs. Let's Talk Chocolate. I know. Oh, here we go. New Order. Love New Order. Mom is good. I talked to her earlier today. Sorry, I started your Alexa. Sorry about that. I hate that. Actually, you know what? The only thing is I've got to be careful with the music because I'm going to turn it off. I get worried about YouTube because it's not saved on TikTok, but it's saved on YouTube. And I don't want YouTube to go, you're playing New Order. And then the video, who knows what happens, No, we save those for when I jump in randomly on TikTok with you guys. But yeah, I just thought about that. I don't want to piss off the YouTube gods. So let's not do that. That reminds you of Silence of the Lambs? Was that on Silence of the Lambs? I don't even remember. Joy Division was good enough. We talked about this the other. Oh God, don't get me going through all my music again, like we did last time. Elon Musk is going to build the Death Star. I wouldn't be surprised. I do think I will say this. I mean, F. Borner is saying, I'm embarrassed we let down Ukraine in the beginning. The thing is, I think it is true that all of us thought Ukraine was going to get slaughtered in the beginning. That is true, and I guess if you're running a sovereign country and you say, am I really going to give billions and billions of dollars in weapons to somebody who's going to lose in 3 days? No. So the question then becomes why we thought they were going to lose and what happened and all of that. So I don't know, but I'm not happy. What bothers me is once it became clear that Ukraine was in this and possibly going to keep winning, that basically they weren't losing. We should have turned on a dime and been like, we are there 100%. And we weren't. And we were still playing all those games with the planes in Poland and everything else. So, Blair was waiting in on Ukraine war the other day. He's a twat. Was he being bad? By Tree. Oop. And Flower Lady. Thank you. Hold on. I'll switch to the larger print so I can see you all. There we go. So have a look. Ask it the following. Alexa, state Starfleet rank and class. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on. Alexa, state Starfleet rank and class.
I like to think that I'm your first officer. You're number 1.
That's cute. That's cute. I know my dog is getting upset and wants me. That's very funny. Very geeky, but very funny. I don't know what I actually had some tzatziki with some bread before dinner as a quasi dinner. What else? There was a lot of promise with Blair, I think. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know it like you guys do, Oh, my cookies are great. I still have them in the freezer. Oh, I wasn't talking to Alexa. That was weird. She thought I was talking. But I put I make chocolate chip cookie dough and then I freeze it and put it but I freeze it flat, put it in the freezer. And that way I can break off like 2 or 3 cookies at a time, put them in my toaster oven, have fresh cookies. I don't have potted plants. I don't have potted tomatoes yet. I want to go buy some tomatoes. The only herbs I have, I've got, I don't have many potted herbs. I have my mom's mint that I've always had, that we've had for decades. It was my grandmother's. My mom's had it for 50 years. I've got cuttings of it. So it's a very nice, it's a very good spearmint. It's a balcony. I guess it's a balcony because I'm up several floors. So but it's a big balcony. I mean, I've got like almost 6 feet out and like 35 feet long. So it's nice. I have a lot of plants, but the herbs I just planted, because every spring I kill it. Green onions, or scallions as we call them, or I call them scallions. I guess people call them green onions. I love them. Oh, was there lightning? Oh no, was there? Dun 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 dun. Well, Sasha already freaked out because earlier there was just a little bit of drizzle, and she gets scared when it rains. And the lightning, forget it. It better not be lightning out the window, ruh-roh. But it's a balcony for sure. Yeah. On a patio? I wouldn't call it a patio. No. Spring onions, green onions. I don't know. They're scallions, but I love them. The thing that's neat about scallions is I don't eat the bottom part. I don't care about the bottom part. I cut off the top part, the green, and it just keeps growing. And they live throughout the year here. Like, it survives the winter in a pot outside, no problem. So I love using them. I love just kind of keeping them on my balcony. And normally they do fine, but then they get waterlogged in the spring, and that's it. So I'm trying a new pot this year. Onion and basil in with my tomatoes. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of I'm going to go to Home Depot, I think, and if I can get to Home Depot. I'm in DC, yep. And I want to get one of those cherry tomato plants, but the kind that give over several months. I think that would be nice. Bye, DBZ. I just think that would be nice because I love tomatoes. I just don't like tomatoes happening all at once. I like them over a period of months. But I just like I like my balcony. I mean, I've got a wonderful garden. My plants are doing well. Sort of still depends what plant where. My irises skipped a year. Some of them bloomed. My irises went crazy last year. I mean, insane the number of irises I had last year, flowers. And this year they skipped. And I don't know why they skipped. It's crazy. I guess the weather, unless they come now, but it's a little late now. But yeah, I love the green onions, or whatever you call them, the scallions, because I like I said, just the little green tips, mixing them in with eggs and stuff. Oh, very good. The baleen is fabulous. I will show you. Sorry, TikTok or YouTubers. I will show you my baleen. Since now I also learned finally the other day, somebody showed me how to flip my camera. Where is this? Admin? Oh, come on. It's doing it again. It's not enhance. Flip camera. It's under enhance. Of course it is. Beep. But that's my baleen, which I love my baleen. Oops. Come on. Why is my baleen not? Hold on. Try this again. It's not really coming in focus, and I'm not sure why. But it's about 11 feet long. Yes, my sister got the rug for me. That would be Sasha begging me to do something with her. This is the plant. That's my Christmas cactus that I adore. That's doing very well. That's a very old Christmas cactus. Going back 30 years that I've had it. And it could, well, you can see next to Sasha, oh, she's moving too fast. Other Christmas cactuses of different colors. Oh, you want to go out there real quick? Okay, you can go out. You can go out. And then those are, I was showing you guys the other day, the orchid cactus, they call it, but it's not an orchid, it's really a cactus. But you can see the little bit coming off the top of that back one. But these are other Christmas cactuses, like I said, various colors, that's a white one I got from Home Depot. But it's kind of zoomed in, it's funny. And that's the really nice old one I've got, but I like and then these are some of the scallions that I put in water to let the roots grow just a little bit. But, and of course, my favorite, African violets that grow like crazy for me. These things are insane. The Well, the best colors are in that. I turned it around just because I want the light, but those are the best. I mixed it up a little bit with 3 different varieties here. You can see the, sort of the white and blue. Oh, come on in. Come on in. The white and purple. I think I put purple, sort of the white and purple, and then the darker one there. And then the one below is this kind of a purple that's still very pretty, but it's a purple with white edges. But yeah, no, I do well with plants, and especially, I'm going to turn this around now, especially with the, whatchamacallums love me. The African violets just love me. They do very well. It's the Greek in me. We like our gardening very much. Yeah, I love to garden. Which couldn't you live with? Salad, vegetable, or fruit? I could live without all of those, but fruit I prefer. I'm not a big salad fan or a veggie fan. I prefer salad over vegetables overall, and fruit I certainly prefer over the other ones. So I don't eat enough fruit, but I certainly would prefer. What is it under the? What you doing? Hold on. I have to look to make sure that Sasha didn't lose her ball under the couch, because the next thing that happens is. It better not be. Is it under there? Is it under there? No. Sasha, I can't play with you right now. Not yet. So help me God, if it's lightning out there, I'm going to freak. What? I'm getting worried that it is doing lightning out there, is it? I thought I saw the sky change again. Did it, no, that's just the light. That's just the light adjusting to me, I think. Isn't it? Or is that lightning? I don't know. I know I've got to get more. Hold on. I'm checking my phone to see what it's saying. That looks like it keeps changing, but I don't know if it keeps changing because it's just the way. They're not saying rain here. I don't know. I think the light may just be adjusting. Hold on. Weather bug. No, it's not showing. No, the nearest lightning is 43 miles away. That can't be. Yeah, I think it's like that. It's just adjusting funny. I think, yeah, see? When I move over, there we go. Okay, it did look like lightning. Okay, now I'm feeling better. Now I feel better. I didn't want Sasha to keep freaking out. Like I said, she was a little upset earlier today. Oh, what else? La, la, la. We had really bad lightning and thunder the other night. Oh, my God. She was not happy. Hey, okay, just wait. My God. You will finish with a love octagon. I'm not sure what that is if you're talking to me, Audrian. I'm not sure. I think we're all talking about something. You're all supposed to be talking about something else there. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm thinking I'm done with this conversation. Sasha, all right. Sasha's begging me to brush her teeth, and thank you for the origami. Oop, and the neighbor's dog is barking. That's going to get Sasha going. All right, guys. I'm going to call it quits. Was it Thursday? Yeah, we'll still do. We'll do tomorrow the same time. Thank you for the paper crane. The baleen is very cool. The baleen is one of my favorite. Okay, actually, I'll show you really quick the even better baleen. Now, much better than my baleen is my baleen basket. And this is a very nice one I got when I was working for the senator from Alaska. But, you could, the reflection on this thing is fabulous, but also you'd have to know baleen baskets to appreciate how well woven this is. This is a very nice piece. With the little thingy and then it's signed by the artist at the bottom. But this is a very nice, it's a beautiful, because you can, the quality of the baleen baskets really comes from just how tight and even the weave is. It's almost hard to tell, but it's a perfect, anyway, they're gorgeous things. And then the little, which I love, the little bear on the top, But this is one of my probably 2 favorite pieces because it's a beautiful basket. you know, but I always say I worry about like who's going to inherit that kind of thing and whether they'll appreciate how nice it is, because that's such a nice piece. I mean, it's not a cheap piece either. You know, the sculpture by the TV is just a goofy sculpture from Mexico, but I love it. It's just a funny little. I was showing people this the other day. It's just where's this? It's just a little carved thing, but it's not. I mean, it's nice sized. I'll put my hand next to it. Oops, I can turn this the right way. There you go. You can see. I mean, it's a nice large piece, but it's just a little. It's a Mexican tourist piece, but it was in the lobby of Citizens Bank here in Washington. The bank shut down. My roommate, I was telling you guys, Sorka Brady, my Irish friend from Dublin, had it, and she called it the goddess of fertility. And because she was moving back to Dublin, she wasn't going to ship that thing back. And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to have that. I don't think I have a big place on that, but you know, it depends. For Paris, I have a large apartment. For America, I don't have a large apartment. For Paris, it's a large apartment. For Chicago, it's small. For DC, it's nice. For New York, it would be big. But for DC, it's a nice apartment. But it's funny. Yeah. The difference for these things. But yes, I like having the deck because it's nice, because I can just sort of go out there and go in and out and everything. And, you know, it's a nice little, it's nice to be, the recap. Yeah, let me do the recap really quick. Did I not? I guess I didn't do the recap. I thought I did the recap. Maybe I didn't. I didn't do the recap? All right. Bottom line is the police took a very long time to respond to the Texas shooting. Very long and kind of scary. Like, they didn't storm the school until an hour after they were called. The Russians are continuing to make a push into eastern Ukraine. The town of Severodonetsk is the one they're really going after. They're approaching from all sides, but they're still having a very hard time taking it, and we'll see what happens. The Russians claim to have captured Liman. The Russians are shelling Kharkiv again. Mariupol, we found out that the Ukrainians were able to get in multiple flights of helicopters that delivered arms, ammunition, medicine, food, and 72 additional fighters throughout the blockade, or the whole, the 2.5 months siege. NATO may or may not be afraid to send planes and tanks to Ukraine. I think they are. More evidence that the sanctions are working against Russia and that the prices of consumer goods are soaring. Basic items from paper to buttons are in short supply. Nike is out of Russia for good. Turkey is negotiating with Russia over possibly letting Ukrainian grain go through Turkey. I'm skeptical. Turkey's talks with Sweden and Finland have been going well, at least as of today. The Turkish spokesman said they had made some progress, which is good. Two additional Russian soldiers pleaded guilty to firing on a town in eastern Ukraine from across the border. It was a war crime. A Russian soldier, my favorite story here, I think, a Russian soldier looted a Ukrainian home and thought he was being cute. So he took a selfie on a Polaroid camera and left it there. So the Ukrainians used it to identify him. They were able to use some software, and they know the jerk's name, his social media profile, and what he did is a war crime. So now his name is on a war crime list. Congratulations, stupid little Russian boy. Police in Moscow arrested a man for wearing blue and yellow while jogging. They thought it was a political statement. It was simply blue and yellow. Thank you, Canal C. And Russian troops sent 58 tons of stuff they stole from the Ukrainians back to Russia. And then the final sad point was Depeche Mode's keyboardist, Andy Fletcher, has died. So that is it for today, folks. Isla del Carmen, no lo conozco. No la conozco. Permiso. Perdón. All right, guys. I am going to go. Slava Ukraini, exactly. And we'll do tomorrow, same thing, 6 p.m. Eastern, midnight Paris. And the weekends, obviously, will be earlier, 2 p.m. Eastern. So that may or may not be better for folks if you're not out enjoying the world. We will at least be here. But thank you for joining us. And we'll pick, and I know, that's right. And Ray Liotta has died. Exactly. I threw that in, but forgot it wasn't on my list. Did I say Monday? I didn't mean Monday. Tomorrow is Friday. So we'll be doing Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, we're doing 2 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow is the same time as tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern or New York City time. Okay, guys? All right. Bye-bye. As always, I'll wait until I get lots of bye-byes on TikTok so I know you guys have caught up, and you guys on everywhere else. Thank you so much. See you mañana. All right?